Things you need to remember about brewing, home brewing, whether it's hard cider, beer, or anything else, it is a craft. There's a little bit of science, but a lot of it is just the art of working with whatever material you have.
So that's okay.
First thing you need to do is to get rid of the bacteria and the yeast that naturally are around particularly around the skins. We do that with a little thing I use. It's called one step. If I'm bottling things, I put my bottle, soak it in here. I don't even soak it. I just take it in there, shake it around, dump it out, and now it's ready to go. It's wiped out everything there, and it doesn't flavor whatever's going on. So as I was going through these YouTubes, I saw this thing called a whiz-bang apple press. Traditionally, the presses where they would grind the apples up, put them in a press, and use the power of the press to squeeze the juice out of the chunks of apples. His concept was that if you, instead of making chunks of apples, you just mush them up. So what I have is a stainless steel garbage disposal unit, and that will make the pulp. And then we'll take it in bags, and then those bags will go inside the press mechanism. And there we'll cover it, put a plate on it. Now the reason I'm adding lots of plates is because I don't have. We stack it up, and then you just press to get this little hand crank. A lot of juice just comes naturally just out of the fact that it's going through this pulping thing. There's one concern with apples, and particularly fresh squeezed juice, and that is E. coli bacteria. Well, if you're doing a wine, there's some natural sulfides that are in the red wine grapes, but they're not on apples. So they have to introduce and use a product similar to a Cadmium tablet that introduces the sulfides in there that kill off any bacteria and any yeast that's foreign. So anyway, once you decide how you're going to internally kill the yeast, either by chemistry or by heat, then it's really simply you put it into a fermentation vessel of some kind or another. It doesn't matter what size, it just depends how much juice you have. And the next thing you need to do is to inoculate it with some kind of a yeast. Generally for ciders you use a white wine or a champagne yeast. And the yeast needs certain kinds of nutrients to live. Apples have a lot of those nutrients, but not all of them. So if you're concerned about it, there's a little thing called a yeast nutrient. And then you just let the thing bubble away. Cider takes anywhere from a week to 3 weeks, 4 weeks, depending on how warm the temperature is, depending on how sweet the juice is, that is how much available starch there is for them to eat. Ultimately, it'll start clarifying from here down, and there'll be a sludge on the bottom of this thing. So you need to, what we call racking it, which is basically siphon the juice out into another container without getting the sludge. Finish the whole thing, and I've got this really dry cider. Now at this point, you can stop and say, all right, I have finished my process. Or if you want to back sweeten it, then you have to do something else. And the thing you have to do is make sure that the little yeasties in there are not going to go off and eat the next bit of sugar you put into them. There's a thing called potassium sorbate, which suspends their ability to reproduce. And then when you add in I always use the cider that I started out with before I started going through the hard cider process, and use that as my backfill. So I've got the same apple content and the same kind of characteristics of the apples. And then add that until I got the right taste. And then when all's said and done, you're ready to drink. And to you. Taste the springtime, huh?